F-Man Critic, and, well, very beginning of my YouTube channel, the very beginning of my reviewing career, I started off reviewing Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. And a while back later, I reviewed the first movie, Lilo and Stitch, and I never really got it around to reviewing the last two movies, Stitch the movie and Leroy and Stitch. But movies that were basically, for the TV show, really. Yeah, I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, Stitch the movie is clearly the pilot to the TV show, which it technically was at the time, So, what's the plot behind the first, technically, the first Stitch movie? I still can't believe it's called Stitch the movie. Yeah, strange name for the name of the TV series, the pilot to the TV show. But whatever. Anyway, the movie, it starts off with Jumba, talking to the new villain, Dr. Hamsterville, an old partner of Jumba's. As apparently Jumba, Gantu, I think that's actually, Gantu returns, not Jumba. Gantu, he wants revenge, so he teams up with Hamsterville to get something that Jumba has. While that's going on, Stitch is trying to be more, presentable. But, we know how it goes. Typical Stitch fashion, he kind of screws a few things up and he feels depressed about it later. Lilo tries to comfort him, but he just feels depressed. But, yeah, in other words, this movie, although it's never really made clear whether this takes place before or after Stitch Has a Glitch, I will say I do like how we see the family, dealing with each other, getting used to one another, I do love how in this movie, Pleakley, cross-dresses a little bit. I mean, he would do that again in Stitch Has a Glitch, but you know how it is. Anyway, Stitch goes to Jumba to see if he's like, when Jumba just giving him words of encouragement, basically acting like a dad, but anyway, Gantu comes in and, he asks for the other experiment pods, apparently. And there's a small one he finds, which is experiment 625, but we'll get to that in a sec. Anyway, Gantu gets away with Jumba. Stitch and Lilo go after him, but sadly, things do not go as planned. The ship power gets destroyed, and therefore, Anyway, they find out what Gantu wanted, and apparently Jumba was hiding this thing that contains little pods that contain basically 624 different Stitch prototypes. Well, it makes sense since he is experiment 626, so yeah. Anyway, they unleash one of them onto the to power up the ship, and while that was happening, anyway, Hamsterville and Gantu, unleash 625. But turns out 625, despite having the same abilities as Stitch, he's actually very lazy, and his only interest in hobbies in life is basically just making sandwiches. That's basically his character, lazy and smart mouth, and just into making sandwiches. Anyway, the other part of the movie is basically just Lilo and Stitch just trying to get the experiment, and it does, and they give him a name, and, Anyway, something happens that involves, Pleakley manages to contact Jumba by, using an alien intergalactic phone book, and, he manages to communicate with him, and, Bubbles, he arrives, and, there's a negotiation thing where give him the experiments in exchange for Jumba. But due to the fact that one of the experiments is missing from the thing, Hamsterville gets all teed out about it. And I gotta say, I do love this scene from the High Councilwoman. I do love this scene. It's pretty funny.
It's Hamsterville, you absurd Grand Councilwoman with your large pointed collar! Prepare to fight.
Anyway, during the whole thing, Lilo and Stitch get trapped on the ship. Stuff happens. There's a big climax on the ship, where they're basically holding the thing that has all the experiment pods, but when there's a hole in the wall, Gantu grabs onto the thing and all the experiment pods come out of the thing and it lands on Earth, strangely on the same town that they're in. All the experiment pods land in Hawaii, right? And yeah, in other words, it's basic, and because of Stitch sabotaging the ship, Gantu's ship lands on this very specific spot that we'll see a lot throughout the TV show. Oh, and well, due to the fact that all the experiment pods are out of that thing, and if they get touched with water, they'll activate, and all the experiments will come out, and well, Grand Councilwoman decides maybe we should gas the planet, evacuate everyone, but Lilo and Stitch say, hey, we managed to get at this little guy being nice and working the lighthouse, and Stitch right here to be friendly. Then why not, treat this thing like an Easter egg hunt, and she accepts, and well, we see a little montage of all the experiment pod, 5 of them activating, and we see Lilo and Stitch drive off about to, meet it with an experiment pod, have a little conflict with it, but realize deep down on the experiment pod's actually a sweet creature that's misunderstood, or it just wants a purpose in life, and therefore they give it a name, they give it a purpose, as well at the same time having a little fight with Gantu, and that's just how it is. Wash, rinse, repeat for 2 seasons on the TV show. And I gotta say, as a start to a pilot goes, this one was all right. Yeah, you can clearly tell from the animation. The animation wasn't gonna be that big, their budget was way short, so it makes sense why their animation looks like the TV show, because it is the pilot to the TV show. And I gotta say, as all pilots go, this ain't bad. I really like it. I really did think it was a good start to introduce to the TV show. Oh, and I really do like the TV show. Oh, I'd give this an 8 out of 10. Go check it out. Oh, anyway, after 2 seasons, they make a movie to end off the series. Well, I say sort of end off the series because a couple of years later they reboot Stitch again in an anime that isn't that bad actually. But we're not talking about the anime. We're talking about Leroy and Stitch. After 2 seasons, Lilo, Stitch, Jumba, and Pleakley are all being thanked and congratulated and rewarded by the council. And they're all given rewards. Jumba is given back his evil lair. Pleakley is given an opportunity to be a teacher to teach aliens about Earth, and Stitch is given to be a general or a captain on the big red battleship. But Lilo, realizing she's gonna have to say goodbye to her alien in Ohana, they turn down the offers. But when Lilo sees how happy they would be if they are, and seeing, she realizes that she thinks she's being selfish, so she lets them join their thing. They say their goodbyes. Lilo gives Stitch this necklace thingy, and they say their goodbyes, and it's really kind of heartbreaking to see. But we'll see them again later. See them reunite later. Anyway, and Gantu was breaking Hamsterville out of prison, and I won't lie, this is pretty funny.
It will soon be complete.
What do you mean, complete? You haven't even broken me out of my cell!
Then who is this?
That's the warden's gerbil, you nearsighted fish stick!
He looks just like you.
He got the warden's gerbil. That's pretty good. Anyway, Lilo tries to live her life without her alien Ohana, and everyone's trying to live their lives, but honestly, they're kind of lonely themselves. We see a little montage of all of them, trying to be happy, but realizing they kind of miss each other. But anyway, Hamsterville comes in Jumba's lair, and he basically threatens him to make this new experiment, and that's what he does. He basically makes a new new experiment called they did brainstorm a bunch of names like 627, but there was already a 627, and they could have and therefore they settled it with Leroy. Like, apparently there's this weird constant joke in the movie where Leroy is a funny name. Apparently Leroy isn't that much of a funny name to be laughed at. I mean, imagine if you're a dude named Leroy, right? Like, I can't imagine all the people who are named Leroy, right? And they watch this movie, and there's a joke in the movie that Leroy is a funny name, right? Like, I can't imagine what they must have been thinking. Like, what, my name's funny or something? Because, honestly, Leroy isn't that something to be laughed at. But the real thing that kind of disappoints me, because at the ending of the episode where I talked about 627, and Jumbo reveals that he had an experiment pod of a 628. Yeah. Don't believe me? Yeah, and you know what the worst part was? We never got to see what that experiment pod does, or how it's better than 627. Because I'm just saying, did they just forget about 628, and therefore they came up with a different one? I'm just saying, I found that kind of disappointing, if I'm being honest here. I would have loved to see what 628 was, you know? What kind of monster would it be this time, you know? But I guess we'll never know. Anyway, Stitch fights it, but he gets his ass beaten, and Leroy takes his place. During a FaceTime call with Lilo, Leroy tries to do his best impression of Stitch, but she realizes he's missing his necklace, so therefore she realizes something must be up. Anyway, Leroy gets cloned, and the clones, try to take over for some things, and Leroy, he goes back on Earth, taking all the experiments and putting them in a field. Hamsterville takes over. He puts Pleakley, Jumbo, and Stitch in the ship that's going to go straight to a black hole. And, using a rock that was foreshadowed earlier, they're going to use it to try and make sure they don't die in a black hole. And I gotta say, I do love this cheerleading line from Pleakley.
Go, little monster! Go, go, go! Save us from the black hole! Yay!
Anyway, realizing something's up, Lilo goes to a 625 who is, kind of miserable since Gantu is gone. And, I gotta say, I really do love the interactions these two have together, she's actually, she gets Leroy out of his spunk and stop being lazy. We actually see him use his Stitch-like powers, and she even gives him a name, Reuben. Fits him. Anyway, they managed to get the ship working, and, they managed to recruit with everyone, and they managed to befriend and jump Gantu, because apparently Gantu is no longer important, therefore he resents Hamsterville or something, and whatever, so he joins them, and, anyway, Hamsterville and Leroy plan to, destroy all the experiments, and I gotta say, I do love this scene where all the experiments are fighting all the Leroy clones, and it's really cool. We get to see all their talents be put together, and I just really love it. It was a really good fight scene. Wish it lasted a little longer, but since there were too many of them, looks like there was no hope. But until they realize, Leroy does have a weakness. Apparently, music is his weakness, and which is honestly the most Lilo and Stitch thing I've ever seen this franchise do. They sing Aloha Oi to get all the Leroy clones to glitch out like Stitch did, and Stitch has a glitch, and somehow that works. They all get and, all the Leroy clones are taken down. Hamsterville is used as like a beach ball, which is funny. And, Stitch, Pleakley, Jumbo, and Lilo are rewarded once again, and they decide to make, an official Ohana, and they end the series with a big picture, and, with the phrase Ohana, ending the series, and that was Leroy and Stitch, and I gotta say, it was not a bad ending to the franchise. Well, until they reboot again in the anime. But other than that, though, this was the perfect ending to end the series. Like, outside of the 6-2-8 situation, you know, basically this just... I'm just saying, everything about this was just amazing. 9 out of 10. Give it a watch. So, yeah. Stitch the movie was a perfect way as a pilot to introduce us to the TV series. And Leroy and Stitch was a perfect way to end the series. So, I gotta say, hey, go check these movies out. Go check the first one, check the second, check Stitch the movie, and Leroy and Stitch. This is the F-Man Critic telling you to like, subscribe, hit notification. I'll see you guys next time. Aloha.